Understand that our foreign and domestic enemies not only eagerly support the frenzy of rape and murder we saw in Israel, but that they want it repeated here in America. When they talk about the consequences of colonialization, or complain that Israel has defended itself, they are normalizing mass atrocities by their purported allies against their actual enemies. Their enemies in Israel are Jews, men, women, and children, and here, their enemies are normal Americans, again, men, women, and children. Denial simply empowers these monsters, and attempts by the goo-goos to appeal to our enemies' morality, or to point out facts and argue in good faith, will end in abject failure. What matters to our enemies is that we suffer and die. Nothing less will satisfy them. They want you dead, horribly. Your family as well. Too bad if the truth scares you. You can deny it, but you're only fooling yourself, and probably not even yourself. How do I know they want us dead? They tell me on social media, where the fellow travelers of the brave warriors who take on unarmed women and children cheer on the atrocities. What do you think they mean by decolonialization? They mean you deceased, but they also tell us by their actions. Why do you think that Soros does free rapists and murderers? Why do you think they only vigorously pursue their political enemies and those who use self-defense to protect themselves from criminals? Why do you think they are dedicated to seeing us disarmed? We're not murdering people, and they do not care about the people who actually are. Their top priority is to see that we do not have the means to protect ourselves, via cops, via the legal system, or via our guns. There is only one possible conclusion for anyone who is not in willful denial. It's just hard for some people to accept, but take a look at the people giddy over Hamas's savagery and you cannot come to any other conclusion. Do you think someone who wants to make sure you cannot fight back wants you alive or dead? Because wanting you defenseless is only consistent with wanting you dead. At least we still have guns. The Israeli families did not have guns. Contrary to popular belief, owning a gun was nearly impossible in Israel until they saw the light over the last few days. And that foolishness got hundreds killed. Even a couple guys with rifles, most adult Israelis have served, could have changed the whole dynamic. You have seen the videos taken by terrified future victims of the cowards strolling through the towns without a care in the world, but imagine someone engaging them from a building with an M4. Outgunned? Yeah, he would be, unless all the citizens had a gun, like in Texas. The fact is that when there is return fire, the situation changes dramatically for the attackers, and it did where armed Israelis confronted them. When they come under fire, instead of walking from house to house butchering kids and grandmas, they have to take cover and engage the shooters. Remember how two half-wits with handguns shut down Boston? Armed citizens turn the tables on packs of semi-human savages. The gun control thing is part and parcel of the left's campaign to delegitimize any resistance to the leftists' exterminationist agenda. You see it in their demands that Israel forego violence, but it is not because they believe violence is illegitimate. As we have seen, they support violence. They just want to morally corral Israel so that it cannot fight back, because fighting back and killing the terrorists who slaughtered the innocents is an effective means of preventing future attempts at genocide. Time equals 400 ms, greater than here in America, where they hope to someday repeat this monstrosity against us. Colonizers. Their initial means is defunding cops and preventing any prosecution of criminal acts, as well as the aforementioned attempts to disarm us. Again, what is the end state you want if you wish rapists and murderers to be wandering free, unpunished, with no cops, and with the normal folks disarmed? Perhaps more rape and murder? Certainly that's not a recipe for less. It is not as if we have not seen the results, despite the regime media running interference by downplaying the truth. We know what has happened to crime lately, it has exploded. But if you want to see what is coming down the road, look across the ocean. In South Africa, which had a chance for reconciliation, the leftists in power who share their beliefs with the Hamas and criminal excusing left in the West, including prominent members of the Democrat Party, are encouraging a bloody pogrom against the remaining settlers, most of whom had families settled there 150 or more years ago. Remember that to our domestic enemies, we patriots here in America are settlers, or colonizers, regardless of color, since they reserve a special hatred for normal people who are not white. They want this mass rape and murder to happen here to us as repayment for some kind of corruption of blood. Of course, needless to say, With us gone, they can rule unencumbered by our resistance. This real talk is tough to hear, and unpleasant to say, but you have to believe people when they tell you that they want you dead. And when these creatures chant, "Death to America," that's not their quirky way of wishing you a happy birthday. But words are not the only way people tell you what they want. People want the reasonably foreseeable consequences of what they advocate. The leftists here advocate letting rapists and murderers run free. They advocate that we normal people be rendered totally defenseless. Is there anything else they could want but for us to end up being raped and murdered? Nope. Oh, most of them won't say it outright. They just support the criminals and terrorists who do the raping and the killing. The ones that are open about their endgame, that is, our end, must really tick off the more sophisticated ones who use their coded attack dog whistles to say it. The squad gets on social media and appeals for peace and de-escalation only because they want to prevent Israel from hitting back now that the brave child killers they support have been driven back into their rat holes. But do you think Ilhan Omar, when she attains power, will lift one brother-touching finger to keep you from being killed? Number. She hates you. She would cheer, just like the civilian savages of Gaza. What is bitterly funny are the leftists who think the hell they would unleash via their favored sociopaths upon their own society in the name of social justice or, more accurately, socialism, will pass over them. It's like the dumb commie college kid who thinks that after the revolution he's getting the poetry writing gig and not the fertilizer shoveling detail down on the collective farm. It's hard not to burst into laughter seeing a coterie of mutants marching with a "Queers for Palestine" banner knowing that they would be tossed off one of the few buildings the IAF has left standing the second they set foot in the Gaza Strip. Many of the poor kids at that desert rave, where the courageous rapists and butchers unleashed their animalistic hate to the tune of countless women molested and 260+ murdered young people, probably bought into that nonsense ideology. One woman, being hauled off into a hell of sexual torment in Hamasland by these savages, is on video crying out that she is innocent. But you cannot be innocent of being the other. And to these monsters, we are all the other. And they want the other dead. The answer is war. We gave peace a chance and we got heaps of corpses. Now let's get back to basics, to the tried and true method of dealing with barbarians passed down from the Romans. We must fight them, without false mercy and with the ruthlessness necessary to destroy their ability to rape and murder our people. At home, for now, that means tough policing combined with a judicial process that leads to harsh sentencing. In Israel, it means a harsh war that destroys Hamas utterly. And in both cases, it means ignoring the false claims upon our morality issued by the morally illiterate to not do what we must do to prevail. You are not moral by letting them win. You are weak and cowardly, and eventually you and yours will be featured on one of those snuff videos. If you want to live, you will have to fight. At a national level, we must make war on our enemies and seal our borders. Locally, we must imprison thugs without the cruelty to normal people that comes with false compassion lavished upon criminals. And personally, the answer is the same one I have been giving you for years. Buy guns and ammunition. If you have to die, at least do it on a pile of hot brass.